Well, hello there. My name is Dave Bila. I want to welcome you to this new edition of News and Views broadcast by Access LaPorte County on Public Access TV Channel 99. We are a weekly public opinion program addressing local, state, and national topics and issues of interest in Michigan City and surrounding areas. Opinions are the views of those making the comments, and making the comments, and the comments do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of this program or its co-producers. We will adhere to broadcast rules, but no one's First Amendment rights of freedom of speech or freedom of the press will be either muzzled nor denied. Any unauthorized use of the accounts, descriptions, and events of this program without the express written consent of its co-producers is strictly prohibited. We hope you enjoy the program, the discussion, and the participants. Ladies and gentlemen, before we formally open up the show, I want to read something. On Sunday, May the 11th, Mother's Day, a local band known as Plus One will be giving a concert at Krieger Memorial Hall on Liberty Trail here in Michigan City. Plus One consists of two brothers, Jimmy and Joey. Both lost their mothers to cancer 2.5 years ago, and this performance on Sunday is intended to honor their mothers. Any mother attending with a paying guest will be admitted free. Doors open at 5:30, and the show begins at 6 p.m. Jimmy is a junior in Michigan City High School and is the vocalist and plays a variety of instruments, while Joey is a 11-year-old from 5th grade in that school that plays the drums. The boys are influenced by a alternative pop rock group, Plus One. And they play some of the covered songs and some of the original music. So come out Sunday, May the 11th at Mother's Day at 6 p.m. at Krieger Memorial Hall. A limited number of tickets are available, can be purchased at the door. And you can get more information by emailing band, BANDPLUSONE, bandplus1.com. You can also purchase tickets from their website. Jimmy and Joey, I happen to know them because they're my grandkids. And they're putting something on for their deceased mother, as well as all of the mothers in Michigan City. And I think it's a heartwarming event, and that place should be packed. Gentlemen?
Tony, you want to do
Bob? I don't know which way we're going.
I'm going to start out with something a little bit unusual, but for those of you that enjoy history, this is the 250th anniversary of the Battle of Ticonderoga. One of the reasons that we are here today. If you want to look back on that, that was one of the decisive battles, although they didn't realize it at the time, of the Revolutionary War. It made a hero out of somebody who later became a traitor by the name of Benedict Arnold. It also involved a group that you from time to time hear about, which was the Green Mountain Boys that came out of Virginia. But perhaps more importantly is a very little known aspect of that particular battle. And it involved an individual whose name I cannot remember, but I do remember what he brought to the battle. It was called the Kentucky Long Rifle. This was one of the very first rifles that was actually used in a combat situation. And he was detailed in there because this rifle, unlike most muskets, was actually rifled, and when you shot it, it could be very, very accurate, whereas musket balls went up and down in the barrels because they were round and it went out, and it may have hit the guy 2 rows over from you rather than when you actually were trying to shoot. And as a result of that, it was very inconsequential in many cases in battle. Once you got riflings in battle, they became very consequential. In this case, that was also part of the consequences, because from 300 yards away, he was able to shoot the British commander and took him out. He was dead at that point. That totally changed, ultimately, a lot of what we do in battle, and as a result of it, has probably been responsible for a heck of a lot more deaths than we ever imagined at the time. Again, 250th anniversary, the Battle of Ticonderoga, one of the turning points in the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, if you go back and look at some history, kind of interesting and sad, but you look at World War I and World War II, the people the United States were fighting against and we were helping over there. There's some historical references that the Germans were really amazed on what some of these Tennessee, Kentucky mountain people would do with their rifles, and they were picking off lieutenants, generals, and they could not believe the accuracy of the Americans that came over there with our rifles.
Yeah, well, that and a lot of other technology changed the course of war. If you go through the Civil War, the First World War, and even into the Second World War, technology was so far ahead of how we planned out battles, how we fought those battles, and as a result of that, we lost a lot of people, especially in the First World War, that we should never have lost.
Yeah, our effectiveness in those wars, even though we lost a lot of people, was pretty amazing. And because America's a pretty wild area back in the time, and we had to hunt for our food, and we were pretty good with our rifles. Really good with our rifles.
Now, to bring it up to date, for those of you that are following President Trump in terms of the tariffs, you may realize that when it came to China, he imposed a 185% tariff on anything coming from China, which then resulted in a number of ships loaded with all sorts of items for this country were turned around midway in the Pacific Ocean and went back to China. You're going to see this going back and forth. He then came out several days ago and said that, well, he thought that probably an 80 percentile level for both us and the Chinese, that probably was fair. And a lot of people thought that he was just giving up. He then came out today and said, well, yeah, it was just kind of a thing I thought about, but it will be up to the people that are doing the negotiation, which includes our Secretary of the Treasury and one of the major assistants to the Premier of China. We keep in mind, Trump tends to actually tell you what he's out to do. And several weeks ago, he said that this was his goals as a result of the tariffs. And what he wanted to do, he had 3 metals that he felt had to be done in the United States: steel, copper, and aluminum. Now, steel is pretty well taken care of because of the large steel mills that we have here in Northwest Indiana and a number of others that are placed around the country. In addition to that, Hyundai announcing a $5 billion out of a $20 billion dollar value that they're going to bring into the United States for investments in their automobiles and other areas. But the other two, copper and aluminum, are problems. We, in many cases, would not have enough of it if we had to go to war. So one of the things that I brought up is, here in LaPorte County, we ought to be looking at the old LaPorte County situation where we were making all kinds of ammunition for the World War II, for the Korean War, and ultimately we shut that place down and it became an industrial park. Now it's the Kingsbury Industrial Park rather than being the Kingsbury Ordnance Park. That would be a perfect place because it is set up for heavy industry. So as a result of that, if we wanted to build a smelter to take raw materials from aluminum and smelt those things into alumina, which is the output or the outproduct of raw materials going in, I think it would be the perfect place to put it. The other reason I think it would be a positive is that there were 24 aluminum smelters in the United States in the year 2000. We are down to 4. We're not going to have a lot of competition from the United States, but we would have the most up-to-date facility because we could build it to be environmentally sound, to be highly productive, and where we would have individuals who would not be doing the kinds of hard labor that you used to do in foundries and smelters, but rather we would be using, Tony uses the term robots, I use the term mechanical arms, but basically they're the same thing, to do a lot of that work where people got hurt. What we would be doing and what we would need to do would be to train people to work in those kinds of situations by repairing the robots or the mechanical arms when they didn't work, setting them up, and being able to rearrange them when we were coming out with additional product. Now, some of the other things that he has talked about bringing back to the United States. Computer chips, that's pretty well being done with Intel Corporation, Taiwan Semiconductor Corporation, and a number of others. Artificial intelligence and quantum software, he has talked about that. He wants us to keep ahead in the artificial intelligence race. Lumber, military goods, and pharmaceuticals. And he thinks from our and military goods. He thinks from our perspective, these are things that we have to do in the United States, and we have to be very good at all of them. I'm going to talk about shipbuilding, maybe not in this particular place, but maybe a week from now or 2 weeks from now. So I'm going to let Tony talk about what he wanted to talk about.
Well, I want to go back to, you have to be, Trump is a businessman. And he came out this week and says maybe 80%. So he's negotiating, and he's different because he's pretty much negotiating out inside the meeting. And he's sending signals to China. It's obvious. He's sending them signals on how he thinks this thing's going to go down. And it's kind of strange that we get to see that, but he's a businessman. That's his whatever, art of the deal. That's what he does. So we don't know. I asked Bob before I started, what do you think his number is going to be? He's floating 80%. We started at 145%. He's a businessman. He's negotiating with China. But China, if you read any of the small websites, things that are going in China, it sounds like they're on the ropes. They need us. Their factories aren't producing anything. They turn their ships around, and I just thought when Bob said that, they turned their ships around fully loaded.
Yeah.
Those ships are still, they're not unloading them. They're still sitting in the docks now in China waiting to come back. They will come back. But China's not producing anything to load new ships, and their factories are pretty much shut down. The people need us. They have 1.5 billion people. They need us. They need our food. They need our resources. They need to sell us goods. And I think Trump knows that, and I think they're the first ones to blink, and China, I think, is. So a few weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, China made a big hoopla about we're not going to buy these Boeing airplanes, and they were sending them back, and anyone else can have them. Well, this week, China announced that they, I forget the number, 14 new Boeing 777s they ordered. Sounds to me like they're blinking, and I think Trump knows that's why he floated out the 80%. So I think in the next, sounds like maybe next 2, 3, 4 weeks, we're going to have a deal with China. I don't know what it's going to be. I can't read Trump enough to know, but he has a number, and he wants them to play fair. And I don't know how China, Xi Jinping, is going to save face, but he will, and he's going to have to come out winning on this too. But this is going to happen, and I like we talk about Kingsbury Industrial Park, and the focus in LaPorte County has been to get that rail up and running in Kingsbury Industrial Park. If we were going to do, and I like your thing, a high-tech industrial, so it's industrial but it's high-tech, lots of robots, a lot of automation, people aren't smelting by it and getting killed and cancer and disease. So if we were going to do some sort of metal operation there in Kingsbury Industrial Park, we need to get the product to us that we can smelt.
Raw materials.
The raw materials. And that would all come on trains. It's the most easily transportation heavy from all over America to here. Kingsbury Industrial Park is ready. And we could bring that raw material out. We can process it. We have water. All we really need is some electricity. And we might be on the road to be the center of some of these high-tech industrial areas, because it's not industrial like we used to know them before. This is industrial, that a lot of technology that we can build, and we can do it safely and environmentally. So there's a lot of good points there that we are on the cusp, just like Michigan City is on the cusp, so is LaPorte County, and we need to grab a hold of that and run with it.
But he has signed his first deal. This is an outline of how they plan to work this with the United Kingdom. And for those of you, when you talk about the United Kingdom, that's England, Wales, and Scotland. But what he has outlined is that what he is after, he wants to focus on us shipping them beef, which so far we have not been able to crack their non-barrier tariffs, their non-tariff barriers, but he thinks we can sell a lot of beef. And all we have to do is engineer it so that we don't put all of the vaccinations into these beef cattle that we're using for our own situation. He also wants cars. and he also wants ethanol. And if he can get those into the United Kingdom, he thinks we can sell a lot of it. Now, what he's willing to trade for that is, first of all, I'm not sure how many of these people are going to buy, but he said they could bring in their Rolls-Royce automobiles, which start somewhere around $400,000 to $600,000, and they could do that without having a tariff.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm changing the subject a little bit because I guess I failed to. I realize what you guys are talking about, but let's bring the issues back down to the community that we live in.
Okay.
Okay. The fact of the matter is, I attended the city council meeting, sat through the whole event. A lot of things were discussed at the city council meeting that affects a lot of you people in the second ward, pertaining to the halfway house on St. Anthony's Hospital property. There's some rumblings going on within the public. Some people say building a halfway house on the old St. Anthony Hospital property in adjacent to 3 taverns within walking distance of this halfway house creates some problems. So there is a discussion between individuals, pro and con, pertaining to this halfway house that has to be addressed. Another issue that came up at the city council meeting was a letter provided by a non-elected official to Michigan City Forester, informing the residents of Michigan City who don't cut their grass that they've got 5 days to comply with cutting their grass. And yet I drive around the city of Michigan City and I see many, many homes that are vacant, that don't have their grass cut. But yet you have a non-elected city official dictating policy to the city of Michigan City when that non-elected city official authorized the remediation, the cleaning of 11 acres of ground on Cool Spring Ave for a certain organization to build their housing project, or their club project on. Only one of those 11 acres needed to be remediated, needed for the trees to be cut down. I believe you're familiar with it. You walked the area. And did you see very many big trees in that area?
No, they were invasive junk.
Basic junk? Well, again, he authorized...
Wet weeds,
Yeah, okay.
junk.
He authorized the 11 acres so that 1 acre could be
Just
built.
to make sure, because I'm sure this is right, but that was in the city limits, right?
That was in the city limits.
Okay.
Another problem came up at city council meeting, part-time rentals. Public problem on the short-term rentals. In your neck of the woods, Bob. Your
neighborhood's causing trouble.
Your neighborhood is people. They were there almost in mass. I mean, 4 or 5 ladies, basically complaining about nudes running around out of hot tubs and throwing beer cans. Really, that neck of the woods, there's a problem with short-term
I
rentals.
gotta ask, did they give any names on who these people that own these homes? Because if we're going to call them out, call them out.
Well, the concern there was city authorization authorizing short-term rentals.
Airbnbs.
Right.
Airbnbs. Yeah, right. And it's a city council problem.
Yeah, but if you're going to come out, and there are people, and I'm sure there's not too many of these homes that either they're people that own these homes in Illinois or not here and renting them out, give us their names. I think if I was a city council and they came, I'd say, I understand. And could you tell me what addresses they are and who their names are? Because I'm sure the mayor will send somebody over there and we will get in touch with them and we will make sure this stops.
You can, as long as you get the address, you can get the name.
Yeah.
Well,
Because you
they
know
had addresses. They talked about the rubble and everything else.
Good.
And
Well, then go get them. Code enforcement.
That's yes, the city's responsibility to a certain extent to enforce the code.
Enforce that instead of going
Yeah.
after the grass.
One of the problems they have on these rentals, we really don't have a lot of that at Dunescape because we have very few rentals, fortunately. But one of the problems they have with these rentals, and so people that I know tell me about it, is that they will rent for the weekend. Just to give you an example, this one was my grandson. Looked at one of those houses that has the beach walk sign on it. It's a pretty small house, but it's close to the lake. And he said, this is probably a pretty good idea. Me and my brother could get together, we could buy the thing, and we could live there. So he called up one of his friends that he graduated high school with, who's in a real estate business, And he said, how much would one of those cost? Said, they're not for sale, but if you want to rent one for one night, it's $400.
And that was what these ladies were complaining about, because on the weekends they rent these places out, and then Sunday afternoon, Monday morning, they're littered.
Oh, yeah.
Well, these people come
And
in
they're
and they think when you pay them $400 a night,
Yeah.
they think they can do anything, and that's the problem.
Another issue that was brought up was the pile of branches and leaves that if you drive the city streets, you see all of these branches and leaves. I got 2 piles in front of my house that has sat there for a month. Okay, they were supposed to be picked up at spring cleanup. My understanding is there is no place in the city of Michigan City to dump those branches and leaves anymore, because supposedly this site has been, who closed it down?
I don't know.
EPA or somebody came in and closed down the dump site off of Hitchcock Street. And so you see piles of branches all over the city if not being picked up. Oh, and bulkheads at NIPSCO property. Have you seen those bulkheads?
No.
They are driving those pilings on NIPSCO property. That leads me to believe that maybe NIPSCO might stick around for a while, because they've got these 20 or 30 foot
I've
long.
already said it, NIPSCO is going to be here. You guys are dreaming if you think NIPSCO is going to
We
be
can
here.
dream.
Okay, all right.
But there's barges out there with big gigantic pieces of stone that appears to they're going to be laying someplace. So there's a lot of effort going on the NIPSCO property.
Well, there's seawall on the north edge of NIPSCO. If I remember a month or two ago, there was an article about how it's really falling apart and dilapidated, and they need to spend some money to fix that seawall.
So
maybe they're fixing their seawall.
There's
Yeah.
Move a Foot in the harbor.
It was rusted and it was bad.
Then I also attended the Sanitary District May 6 meeting and listened to Al Wallace's report. And in my opinion, it was very incomplete.
Who was Al Wallace?
Al Wallace, he works for the Sanitary District under the umbrella of an engineer with MS4. Okay.
I know the sanitary district.
Well,
he used to
is
run the
one-
MS4 program.
Wasn't he the head of the sanitation?
He
department?
was.
He was, but now he's also back in the sanitary. The point on that was that back in 2021, I provided the Michigan City Sanitary District with pictures of clogged up ditches and non-existent ditches where there was supposed to be. And he said in his presentation that they are in the 4th year of a 5-year program with MS4, talking about their improvement in MS4 in relationship to how it's working in Michigan City. Well, if you take that issue and if you look at the 4th Ward of Michigan City, the 3rd Ward of Michigan City, the 2nd Ward of Michigan City, and a little bit of the 1st Ward of Michigan City, those individuals who pay their water and sanitation bill are not getting their bang for their buck, because that area of Michigan City has been ignored by the sanitary district for over 40 years as far as cleaning out ditches and improving the area of town. And those individuals who reside in this area basically are subsidizing new construction on the east side of town. Well, the sanitary district is not only failing to provide their $400,000, $500,000 worth of ditch cleaning on the west side, but when you also look at the bill that you get every day, those people who live to the west side of Franklin Street, you're not getting your bang for your buck in regards to paying your sanitary wastewater bill.
Dave, I hate to tell you this, but it goes back a lot farther than 40 years.
Yeah, it's a long
It goes
way.
back to 1960.
The point
That's
is,
65 years ago.
yeah, the point is that I've been trying to make for my 45 years, is that the
Now,
sanitary...
you're really kidding us on that one.
It's only
You're
half his life.
45 years, are you kidding me?
Hey, that goes back to when I was on the city council.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I thought you were trying to tell people you were 45 years old.
Oh, yeah, but believe it or not, oh Lord, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. No, but the fact of the matter is, MS4 is designated for the entire 25 square mile of Michigan City. And I have proof beyond a shadow of a doubt, and I think this guy might back me up, maybe not, but he might back me up, that the residents of this moraine West Side Moraine, they're not getting their best bang for their buck, but yet they're paying for it. What is that? Taxation without representation?
We have to go back. So what projects, because you would know, has the West Side gotten? All I can remember is...
Skate park, you said.
No, well, skate park. You know, in storm and sanitary and water. So I remember they did a long time ago, and you might know who did it. They put
Urban
a
renewal.
huge storm sewer down Washington. I think I said Wabash Sports, Washington. Huge storm sewer in Washington. They did some storm water project south of Barker by the old Morrison's gas station, right? They did the multi-million-dollar the pond, Strebel Pond, and they did Ohio Street, which was $10 or $15 million. So I think over the last 60 years, that's what they've got. But the east side...
Let me interject here, because we're going to go along with this. We'll be here 15 years from now arguing the same thing. There's two major projects that the sanitation department has to find out. How much will that cost? Do we have the bonding power to do it? Number one is the Long Beach situation. They have got to solve that problem. Does Long Beach want storm sewers? I doubt it, because it's very sandy and the water goes through. But anytime you're digging a ditch, you're going to put storm sewers in, you're going to put sanitary sewers, and you're going to put water. Now, does Long Beach want just water and sanitary sewers?
Just sanitary.
Okay, just sanitary?
Just sanitary. They got water.
Okay, if they got water, then we're all set. How much will that project cost? Now, the biggest project for Michigan City, or should be, and it's the one project that will take care of everything we've been talking about, is a major storm sewer on the west side. You can sit here forever and talk about this, this, and this. You're not going to solve this problem until you get a major storm sewer, and the sanitation department is going to have to figure out, do we have the bonding power to do this?
And do you know who is the leader of the Michigan City Sanitary District? Who is the leader? Who is the head honcho of the sanitary district?
I still go back to KG Gifford, but you guys don't
The
know.
mayor of the city of Michigan City is the head of the Michigan City
Yeah,
Sanitary
they get
District.
paid. Yeah, they get paid.
That is correct. She is the head of the Michigan City Sanitary District. And based on these figures and these pictures and these diagrams, she is allowing the chickens to run the chicken house. Okay? When you have roughly almost 0.5% of the residents of the city of Michigan City not getting benefit of their tax dollars. That's a travesty.
I don't disagree with you, but you're not going to solve the problem, and that's what you have to do.
Well, that's what I'm saying. She has to put her foot down. Nobody has put their foot down to the sanitary district as long as I've been talking about them.
If you clean out every ditch, a year from now, you're going to have the same problem. 2 years from now, it'll be flowing over.
Well, if they want to remediate the Marquette Mall area, they want to remediate Jerry Cablin's property that has a high water table, they want to eliminate the ponds behind Horizon Bank, they want to dewater this roughly over 50% of the standing water in Michigan City. The bottom line is that area is higher than the level of Lake Michigan, roughly 68 feet higher.
Find out what the bonding power right now of the sanitary district is.
It's for them to find out. They just sit there and they just shuffle pages.
Yeah.
They just shuffle. Well, we're patching this pothole, and that's an $8,000 patching project, and we're doing this.
No.
There are bigger issues. There are bigger issues than
like a
just
storm
patching
sewer.
potholes in the city of Michigan City.
So your problem is that Michigan City has done all the low-hanging fruit, the cheap, easy projects.
The easy one.
Now we are at the point that we have to do some stormwater project on the west side. It's difficult, it's expensive, it's very hard, but we have to do it. We can no longer keep skirting this issue. We need to focus on fixing the west side, even if the east side people are going to have to start paying.
Yeah. The issue that you guys brought up with, was it Eli Lilly moving into the west side? That is a fantastic idea. Let them have the entire 100-acre site of the Indiana State Prison.
Yeah.
And let them develop the area. They've got the resources, and we then will be beneficiaries of the tax revenue derived from their financial input into the west side that possibly would include this remediation of the water problems on the west side.
So I'm looking at the the directory for the staff directory of Sanitary District. Wendy Bechet is Director of Public Works. Chris Zagelski is the business manager.
I thought he was gone.
This is on the website.
Oh.
Rhonda Anderson is Water Reclamation Superintendent. Al Wallace is Operations and Inspection Manager. James Michaels is Sewer Operations and Maintenance Foreman. Josh Barnett is Inspection and Safety Foreman. And Chris Carter is Superintendent. So Al Wallace is Operations and Inspection Manager. I was looking for the MS4 because if I remember correctly, MS4 falls underneath the Sanitary District, and it used to be Arbor for years. I don't know if he's still there. It's not. I don't know how to look that up. But if the Sanitary District still is the overseer of the MS4, then the stormwater, because that is stormwater quality, that's not stormwater quantity, then they need, they're talking to themselves. Because if they're saying the MS4 needs to do these things, then they need to do them.
That is correct. And the major, Al Wallace's major presentation pertaining to MS4 and water-related projects on the east side of Michigan City. For example, this new project off of Highway 212, they had to remediate, and they had to make sure that the water properly goes into the level of Lake Michigan, and they talked about the water flowing down Trail Creek and the microbial whatevers in Trail Creek, and whether these microbes that enter the mouth of Trail Creek is sanitary enough, and the effluent from the sanitary district. They circled all around things that are important. I don't deny that the importance of these things, but the fact of the matter is, within the next 6 years, we're going to own, from the state of Indiana, we're going to own that landmass on the west side of town.
I hope not.
That still sits on a swamp.
Without cleaning it up, I hope not. That's
my point.
Oh my God, it's
That's
gonna
my
be so
point.
expensive.
And you got 6 years to show some initiative.
Wait a minute, you gotta tell us what landmass you're talking about over there.
Where the Indiana State Prison is
That's
located.
what I thought, but you gotta mention that because people won't pick that up.
Yeah, the water table out there is quite high.
And we focused everything, again, I believe it's important, on Trail Creek. We've completely ignored
Correct.
the west side in terms of stormwater and getting that ready for development, and especially now with NIPSCO and especially now with the prison. We've got to focus. We can no longer turn the blinders on the west side.
Let me throw something out. Maybe, because Tony and I are definitely in agreement that we should bring in an Eli Lilly manufacturing situation.
I agree
maybe,
too.
wait, hold on. But maybe we ought to start writing to Eli Lilly's foundation about getting grants to clean that up.
Ooh, good idea.
Yeah.
Because they might be the catalyst to bring Eli Lilly here.
Well, we've got an individual that's responsible to do that, but he's not doing his job. In fact, when there was the grand opening of the
Chicken store?
No, on the AK Smith Center over there.
Oh, yes.
One of the members that was highlighted on the visual, his name was Clarence Holtz. He was supposed to be there, and I looked and I looked and I looked. I didn't see one iota of him, but yet he was being recognized for his influence on that particular project.
I didn't think much of that project, but I thought, in retrospect, a very good idea, because if you look at the density of apartments in Michigan City, if you really looked, that's where they are. Paz, Normandy Village, Cool Spring, there is a huge density in apartments out there in Cool Spring Township that just kind of happened, and those people need that kind of help. So to the mayor, that was a good idea.
Well, that's where I think we ought to put more of that lower cost housing. But first,
100%.
Now, let me make my first statement. Before we do
Affordable
that,
housing.
yes, before we do that, we got to bring in jobs. You cannot do what happened. Well, I'll just use Dave's term. 40 years ago, actually, it was probably a little longer than that. When they built the housing and nobody moved in, we had big places. Well, out there in
Southwind?
south side, we had all these big facilities, and there was just it was vacant. Nobody was there. I think it went through bankruptcy a couple of times. You got to have the jobs because people were moving out. They didn't want those places. They were going someplace else because they couldn't make enough money in Michigan City.
And then
you've got to get the jobs in here first.
That's right. And we circle back to what these two guys were talking about earlier about economic development and how some of it might dribble over here into LaPorte
They call
County.
that trickle down.
Trickle down? Oh, trickle down. Oh, well, in the case of
Fizzled down.
in the case of the waves of Lake Michigan, it's a white cap.
We just made a new one. Drizzle down.
Another interesting topic was I was sitting at my 1106. 1106. I was in the morning. I just got startled because I saw on a TV set. I saw on a TV set white smoke. White smoke. and I woke up. What's the white smoke all about? A 69-year-old United States citizen is now the official pope of 1.4 billion Catholics here in the world.
Technically has dual citizenship, the U.S. and Peru.
Yeah, yeah. But the fact
Yeah.
but the fact of the matter is, what impact is that young man? I'll be 82 in October. Okay, a 69-year-old man. What impact will he have on a development here in the world? And what influence will he have on making things maybe a little bit better that maybe will bring people back to the Ten Commandments and
Christianity.
Christianity. You got to get rid of the old goats, whether it's political or whether it's religious. And his age, I think, in my mind, is a definite asset to bringing back what our society, what religious backgrounds, what everything is all about as far as leading a good life, leading a progressive life, living a life of value.
Because of how young he is, he will probably have a longer term to work on what his goals and objectives are than somebody who was appointed at the age of 75 or 80.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what was John Paul? Because he served probably one of the longest serving popes. But I want to go back to your question. He's a dual citizenship, and Fox News in Chicago said he voted in all these elections. I was wondering, what's his address in Chicago that he's a voter?
Yeah.
What monastery or church is he legally connected
Well,
to?
they did say he spent some residency in the area.
Well, he's born in Chicago, South Side.
2012, 2013, thereabouts.
So he has to be, because priests, I didn't know this, but I guess they do vote.
Yeah, they're lovely.
And they vote out of
Where they live.
the church that they're in.
Yeah.
So he must be connected to a church, Catholic church in Chicago, because he votes in Chicago.
It might be Dalton. Technically,
Or Dalton.
he was born in Dalton, which is a suburb of Chicago.
So that was kind of neat. And I'm waiting. I'm sure somebody will look it up because it's a voting record. It's public. It's public information. You can't vote somewhere where you're not a resident.
He got my
Somebody
attention.
came forward who went to preschool with him.
Yeah.
He got my attention because he's a White Sox fan.
Southsider.
Southsider.
Yeah.
Southsider. And yet there was on a Wrigley Field. They said the Pope was a Cubs fan. Well,
Isn't Dalton the town that had some problems lately?
Yeah. Yeah.
That mayor.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
Maybe he can help that fix that.
Well, no. They said the finances of Rome are in a dire straits right now. They're 90 million.
And isn't this some sort of jubilee year for the Catholic Church?
You got
It's
me.
supposed to be some huge jubilee for the
Yeah,
I went to Marquette High School, so I had 4 years of Catholic. I went to 8 years of Lutheran school, so I don't know.
But
Lots of religion.
But the bottom line is keeping up with the times. When you whether you anoint, you appoint, you elect an individual of a lesser age, that he or she can relate to the society that they service.
And Pope John Paul did that.
That's correct. And when you have, and that also applies to politics. Our political persuasions in Washington are dictating policy to the teeny boppers, to the Jay-Zers. And sometimes something has to give. And it's get rid of the old guys and bring in some new blood.
Well, first of all, for Michigan City and LaPorte County, the thing you have to do is bring in decent paying jobs. And if you're going to do that, you're going to have to be involved with manufacturing, updated manufacturing, based on the way manufacturing works today. They talk about the robots and the mechanical arms and all this. But for people who are working in those factories, it's a godsend, because you're not going to get your arm cut off, you're not going to get your fingers cut off unless you deliberately do something.
Or just wear your joints and your tendons out.
Yeah. So as a result of that, we need to go after these kinds of decent paying jobs so people can afford to live the way that most people in the United States who have good jobs are living. Now, some of that's ridiculous in states like California and New York because it's so heavy on taxation. But we don't overtax people, and if we can get these jobs in here, you will find that a lot of what you are talking about will come to fruition.
Anybody looking for a park sticker? You're looking for a park sticker?
I already have mine.
You already got yours?
Yeah.
Where'd you get it?
Out of the park office.
Really? How? When does that event open up? Any idea?
It's already open.
Really?
Yeah. I went down there, not on Monday, but I went down there on Monday and they said it wasn't open. Tuesday, this past week, I was down there, got there at, as I recall, 9 o'clock in the morning, a little before they opened, and a lot of people in line.
Did you ride your bicycle?
No, I drove a car.
You just live on a corner of the park. You could just walk across the dunes. Why would you need a park
When
sticker?
you get old like me, that's what you do.
Oh. Well, the fact of the matter is, yes, park stickers are available. They opened up the 1st of May,
Yeah.
and they're free to all tax-paying people who reside in the city of Michigan City. Out-of-area residents have to pay a higher fee. Out-of-state residents have to pay, I think, like $150 or something to
It's
that
a pretty
effect.
good deal for even out-of-city people.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is, the park department is dishing out those stickers. How to get them is you take your registration, you go, like Bob said, go stand in line, and they record the information off your registration and give you a park sticker that enables you to drive into the park anytime you want.
If you live in Michigan City, but you are not officially a resident of Michigan City, you have your residency someplace else, but you pay taxes in Michigan City, take your residency, take your registration for your automobile and your tax bill. If you paid it, you're going to get a sticker for nothing.
So
That was me and Kenny Hanke who put that through when I was on the city
good.
council.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Going back to, again, the sanitary district MS4 presentation by Al Wallace, in my mind, it was very incomplete. And that is the message that I'm going to convey to the
They're going
information.
to have to start talking about money. I know it's a terrible thing to have to talk about money, but that's really what's driving a lot of this.
You're right. I didn't watch it. I will watch it on Alco on
Yeah.
their YouTube channel, but I was expecting the sanitary district to tell us what their bonding limit was.
No information was. It all revolved around their 5-year their 5-year program to the MS4 project that they have to provide a report to, and their report talked
You're right.
about.
They do have to report
Yeah.
to the council their MS4 is part of their their requirements of the state and the federal to do their MS4.
And those are the particulates of pollutants in Trail Creek that then enter
Now,
Lake
just
Michigan.
remember, a lot of those small little biomasses, that's what those fingerlings that we plant in there feed off of. So you gotta somehow make sure that what you take out of there is the pollution, but not the little photosynthesis and this type of thing that float around in there in those small little fingerlings, which later on become very large salmon, feed off of.
But the point I want to make is their incomplete report revolved around 1/2 of Michigan City. The other half of Michigan City, the west side of Michigan City, the 4th Ward, the 2nd Ward, and part of the 1st Ward and the 3rd Ward have been omitted for years. It's about time somebody wakes up.
because the west side of Michigan City, especially the beach side, the west side of what we think the west side of Michigan City is 10th Street North, is going to become the place to be. In few short years, it will be a transformation just like we saw in Sheridan Beach in my lifetime.
Okay,
over to the west
Dave
side.
gets to exercise things he's upset about. I'm going to get to exercise.
Good, good.
Somebody came up with a brilliant idea that the restaurants on North Franklin Street, which are pretty expensive but have very good food, ought to take a hamburger off their menu. Now for that person, I would like that person to know that this is the default order for guys whose wives are sitting there saying, or anybody else that's sitting there saying, oh, look at this, we could try this, and oh, no, I only eat what I can spell and what I can pronounce. And if they have great stuff on the menu, but I can't spell it and I can't pronounce it. By default order is a hamburger. There's a lot of guys like me that they can let their wives, their significant others sit there and go through that menu and then come to the conclusion that we ought to try this, no, maybe this. And 20 minutes later, they finally come up with an order. No, I've got my default hamburger, and there's a lot of other guys out there that that's their default order.
And I have to ditto that because I already know what I want. I go to a Mexican restaurant and order a hamburger because that's just the way it is. I mean, all the other spices that they put on in a Mexican restaurant give me indigestion. So a hamburger and fries is sufficient regardless of where I go.
I think the kids would want that more than the older men. The kids need their default hamburger, or the parents aren't happy the whole meal.
There's nothing wrong with
I don't
fancy
know who
cuisine.
came up with this, but it was in the newspaper that somebody said, well, we ought to take hamburgers off the list. By the way, in many cases, they don't even call them hamburgers anymore. They call them patty melts.
But there's nothing wrong with fancy cuisine, but the simple things. When you get our age, you know, you're
Yeah,
limited.
I know well, now I did make the mistake one time. I actually ordered a hamburger. I never believed that this would happen. It came with a pineapple on top of it. I was just, are you kidding me?
And again, the downtown Franklin Street restaurants, there are some fantastic food there. Again, if you go there and you don't feel like something, so you get a hamburger, but some of the other menu items are just amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Handmade right there, sauces, noodles, just amazing, amazing stuff. Great Polish restaurant down there, just amazing. You can't miss out.
We got people that come over here from Chicago just to go to the restaurants. Yeah.
I did make reference to the individual who's running Barker Hall. I've called him a couple times. He hasn't returned a phone call. Jonathan.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, that's a location in Michigan City that should be on a tour for.
It's not a bad idea. We should have a tour of restaurants in Franklin Street.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there are many things you can miss out. Leeds has great food all the way up and down, north and south, all the way through Franklin Street.
Again, going back, in my fossil short in the tooth years, we didn't have those restaurants downtown for a long time.
Oh man,
it was basically a blighted area, and slowly but surely it's revitalizing itself.
One of the great restaurants in Northwest Indiana was on Willard Avenue, Hirschman's Willard Seafood. People came from all over to eat there.
past my day.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
So we got a little bit. So I wanted to bring up the topic because the governor announced, and we better all get ready for this, that he is going to petition the federal highway to allow them to toll the interstates. We all know what happens, especially in northern Indiana. When you take high tolls on an interstate, people get off the tollways, and they go onto our state roads and our local roads, and people die. And that has been happening, and now we're going to do this statewide. We all need to get ready for some we know the name, and you came in here, I didn't know that was true. Highway 20, they call Highway 20 Bloody Tony. I grew up driving on Highway 20. I think it's going to be called Gory 20, and you said
no, not Gory, Gore Road.
Gore Road. It was called Gore
That goes back
Road.
to the 20s and the 40s.
So it's going to get worse, and I've been doing I did some research. I haven't have it all yet, but the Indiana Department of Transportation puts out traffic counts, and you can see over the years since it was leased out the toll road, how many people have projected to go on the toll road and how many people don't and cut off Highway 20. I can tell you lots of people get off that Highway 20 at 94 and they ain't going on the toll road. They're cutting all the way down 20, and now we see the construction going on 20 from the 94 all the way out to the county line at St. Joe. Tens, if not $100 million is being spent because it's not safe. It's gotten so dangerous. And we're going to do this statewide. Somebody needs to rethink about what's going to happen.
This morning I was in Crown Point, and how I got to Crown Point, I took Highway 12 into Gary, took Broadway south into Crown Point. A straight shot. I didn't use the highway system because when I went to the overpasses, they were flooded with cars. There's really no, and these cars weren't going 25, 30 miles an hour. They were on, they did zip, zip, zip.
It's
zip.
a gauntlet.
Oh, I tell you, and those side roads that I took to get to Crown Point, they had a lot of cars on them. So we have a mass of vehicles, again, not only on the interstates, but also on the side roads already.
My latest trips, as I teach at Purdue in Hammond, going on 94 to Borman, I don't remember another time in my life I'd seen so many semis.
Yeah, oh my God.
I mean, they must be 85% semis on 94 in the Borman.
Look at Highway 30.
And those are the people that will pay not the car rates on the toll road on the 94 and 65. They will pay commercial semi rates, and they are leaving that. They're going to get off that road, and they'll drive 12 or 20 or 8 or 6 or 421 or 49 or 30.
Well, now I'll give you a suggestion that I made long time ago when Al Austin was on this committee here, and he was a big truck driver. And I said what they ought to do with Highway 12 is make it a scenic highway and do not allow big trucks on that highway.
But the steel mills, of course, are the big trucks that come off of
They
the
can
old
go
Bethlehem
right to
property.
Highway 20. They can go right to Highway 20.
Highway 20 is a heavy loads highway.
Yes.
But you can see when they're to the east gate, the semis that back up, waiting to get in.
Yeah.
And then after they get loaded, they then traverse, I believe, then they go west.
Well, it's an easy route for them to get on the feeder road into I-94.
Mm-hmm.
Just get on that when they come out of the mills, and then you can go east or west, whatever you want to do on I-94.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a thing that says what they're going to wind up doing is coming as far as they can into Indiana. Then they're going to get off on 20. Then they're going to come through Michigan City, and they're going to go to New Buffalo, and they're going to get back on I-94, which may not be tolled at that point, and then go east on
I
that.
just thought about that. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
They're going to bypass 94 because 94 becomes a toll road
94 in Indiana.
in Indiana.
When I was in Crown Point today, I was talking to one individual, and he says he's taken a Mother Day weekend off, and he's utilizing an Airbnb. I said, where's that located? He says, New Buffalo. So he's spending his Mother's Day weekend, he and his wife, leaving Crown Point, his business in Crown
Well, there's
Point.
all kinds of those in New Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
New Buffalo, Union Pier, those places.
And New Buffalo has very strict rules on Airbnbs now. Very, very strict rules. They are trying to take care of it. And I don't have an Airbnb. I think you should be allowed to do what you want with your house as long as you're not infringing upon your freedoms of neighbors. And when these people came to city council, you said they gave some addresses. They should get specific addresses. And the city should say, all right, we're going to those houses. I'm going to go there Friday night. I'm going to go there the Friday night of prom night. I'm going to go there Saturday at 4th of July weekend. And we are not going to tolerate this.
Oh, a prom is tonight. Michigan City High School prom is tonight. Are you aware of that?
No, there was lots of proms. Last weekend I saw, and I believe before, I was down in Stark County on Saturday, so I didn't make a lot of events. And I saw Stark County had their prom, or Knox had their prom. And a lot of work down that side.
This opening statement that I read about Jimmy and Joey playing for Mother's Day.
Yeah, give it to them again.
But before, they are playing at the prom tonight at Blue Chip.
Really?
They're playing Friday night at Blue Chip, and then Sunday they'll be playing May the 11th, Mother's Day. A local band known as Plus One will be giving a concert at Krieger Hall. at Liberty Trail in Michigan City. Plus one consists of two brothers, Jimmy and Joey. These boys lost their mother to cancer 2.5 years ago, and they're performing on Sunday. And the intent there is to honor their mother. Any mothers attending with a paying guest will be admitted free of charge at the door. Door opens at 5:30, show begins at 6. Jimmy is a junior at Michigan City High School and is a vocalist and plays a variety of instruments. And Joy is an 11-year-old fifth grader at Knapp School who plays the drums. The boys are influenced by the alternative pop rock group Plus One. They play cover songs, and they also play some of their original music that Jimmy wrote. So come out Sunday, May the 11th, Mother's Day at 6 p.m. unless you like to watch 60 Minutes. If you like, of course, I like to watch 60 Minutes. But I think I'm going to attend this function because I have a little blood involved because both Jimmy and Joey are my grandkids. So
You're going to be working the door?
No, I'm just going to stay. I stay in the background as little as possible because I don't want to ruffle too many feathers. You should wear a tuxedo. For those of you that may not be aware of it, Krieger Memorial area was donated by Martin Krieger, who is a long time ago mayor of Michigan City, held more political offices than anyone in history in this county, but he donated like 25, 30 acres, and they built that building on that. For the address, for people that may not know where Liberty Trail is, in your GPS, just put in 100 Liberty Trail, it'll take you right there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Wow.
100 Liberty Trail. I did not know that. Yeah, they rehabbed it a few years ago. It's really pretty amazing. Pretty amazing building, and it's another jewel of Michigan City that I think most people don't take advantage of. So get out.
We're getting down to 2 minutes. Andy's giving us all. We're down to one. We're going down to the index finger
There
again.
you go. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day, all your mothers out there. I lost my mother many years ago, and sometimes you think back to when she used to yell at me for being obnoxious, and now you only wish you had that opportunity nowadays when your parents are gone.
I would say
Gentlemen?
something, but I won't.
No, go ahead.
Wrap it up.
Well, that's it, Tony. Anything? Bob, anything?
No?
Wow.
Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, I guess I want to thank everybody for watching. Your input as to criticism or improvements of the show is greatly appreciated. Please contact shows, try co-producers Bob Pollock, Dave Bila, or Tony Hendricks with your comments. You can email Bob at skrpollock@gmail.com, Dave at djbila1@hotmail.com, or Tony at emailhem@yahoo.com. Or you may direct your ideas for any future shows to our one and only Pain in the Neck staff writer, Sarah Bellum. The showing of our program will be Saturday morning at 10 a.m., also Monday and Thursday evening at 7 p.m. In fact, I've turned the channel on after the 7 p.m. show, and it comes on again. So thank you, Tony. Andy, I get you two guys confused, so what the heck. You may also enjoy watching our program on YouTube. I find it sometimes punching in Navigate News and Views. It comes up, or on yahoo.com, just Navigate News and Views, or 99 Navigate News and Views. Eventually you'll find it. We've got how many shows in the can now?
Look, but a whole bunch.
We've got a whole bunch of shows. Again, you could look if they're an hour show, and if we got 20 hours worth of shows there, you could spend all day, almost an entire day. I want to thank everybody for watching, and make it a good day. Happy Mother's Day.